As I'm sure everybody knows, life gets in the way. This has probably been a few years since I've had an update on the Cadillac engine. As you can see, we've made a little bit of progress. So, I don't really know where I left off, but I'm sure I was still assembling the engine. Trying to give you a better angle here and see all the things, but I'm pretty sure did not have any of the front end built last time I posted. So I've got the pulley, I've got all the pulleys kind of assembled. I've got this thing on an engine frame, a run engine frame, if you can't see. So I've been kind of tinkering with that stuff. I still need to do some work here. So that radiator is not going to work. I just have it kind of sitting there because it looks nice. But this whole engine stand kind of came as an assembled unit. The radiator, I thought I could just kind of fit in and maneuver, and it's all well and G. Apparently not. So I had to do this whole thing where I lifted the engine off of the engine stand. I don't even know if I had the engine stand last time, but I assembled it the other way around. So had the front and the back and the front, whole thing was the other way around. Turns out this engine needs to have the transmission bolted to it in order to run. At least I'm fairly certain. So the whole deal is you don't want to run it without any load. And on the back end, normally you just install the transmission housing on the back, the bell housing, all that good stuff. And then that would be your weight or load on the engine. So apparently that's not how it works. So the transmission I have, I believe, if you want to get the flywheel and a load on said engine with the transmission, you need to have everything. So you can't just slap bell housing on it and a flywheel. Apparently you gotta have the whole kit and caboodle. Something about the, I don't know, flywheel and I don't know. My brother's the expert here. So long story short, I don't think I can run it as an engine without the transmission. I think that's the biggest problem with this particular transmission. So flipped it around and the whole thing, bought a hoisted the engine up, flipped her around, set her down, remounted it, that whole 9 yards, and now it's just a whole nother set of obstacles. So first and foremost is that in order to install the engine on this engine stand the way I want it, I had to get real close to the instrument panel. That's about as far back as I could actually install this engine. And if you can kind of see, there's not a whole lot of room. So I've got just have this radiator kind of sitting there just as a whatever, but it's not going to fit there. And honestly, it's way too low. So sitting on an engine stand, just sitting on the floor, is not going to line up terribly well. So now I need to figure out how I'm going to work this. I think I can take this tubing, raise it up about 9 or 10 inches, and just bolt it on. So raise the whole engine stand instrument panel up, and then I think I can install the radiator just below it underneath, if I've done my calculations correct. And then things will be at least properly spaced between the fan and the radiator. I bought a brand new radiator. Probably can't see it, but it's got a really cool shroud and a built-in electric fan. Obviously, that's not original, but I want to get this thing running on a stand just to make sure the whole thing works. Obviously, I haven't done a whole lot of testing. Can't test any of this until it's all kind of put together and I can actually flip the switch. So I'm kind of hoping I've done all this work correct over the last few years. I've got the whole front end kind of put on. As far as the last video goes, I got the whole front end put on, the fans, pulleys, power steering, the alternator, which is in a generator case. Looks like a generator, but it's still an alternator. Got the right bracketry, got the water pump installed with the correct bolt lengths. There's like a bajillion different combinations could have had at this time. A lot of them and a lot of the parts that I had assumed that you had AC. This unit does not have AC, and I have the AC bracket along with the other AC bracket, but there's no AC unit. I do not intend on installing a AC unit, but I have the pulley wheel that is designed to accommodate an AC unit should I ever want to, or should I sell this to somebody who wants to. But the current 3 groove pulley will account for it should it ever be added on in the future. And where we're at now is I gotta redesign this fucking engine run stand. So that's kind of where I left off. I don't know where the last video was, but I got the whole thing painted. I got the whole intake added on. Got all the accessories that you would imagine. I'm leaving the carburetor off for now, only because that's my lift. So I've got the lift plate on there. I kind of want to just get that off. I want to get this whole thing mounted, but I can't do that until I know what I got to do for the transmission. So if I can get the transmission bolted on to the back, imagine the transmission here. If I can get the whole thing bolted on the back, I'm assuming I'm going to have some kind of lift, some kind of bracer to hold the transmission, because I don't think this whole unit's going to accept that amount of weight on the back of it without tipping. Obviously, I don't want to tip the whole thing, so kind of braining on that. I think I'm going to go and take an old transmission off one of the other ones that may or may not run, but it's probably good. I'm going to bolt it on the back of this thing, build some kind of bracing. Could probably just kind of either weld a bracket that can hold it, or maybe I'll just half-ass it and have some kind of stand on the bottom that just holds the base of the transmission while it's bolted in the engine. If I go that route, as long as I don't have to move it, it's fine, but I would rather kind of permanently affix something onto here, similar to how these brackets are just kind of, fit formed around the 3x3, steel tubing. So if I can figure that out, we'll get the transmission bolted on the back end. Everything's done there except for, I think, one of the freeze plugs. I think I got one freeze plug there that I gotta figure out, because it's an odd size and it didn't come default in my freeze plug kit. So I'll figure that out. Once I get that freeze plug in, then I can bolt the transmission on. We can figure out how we're going to mount it, how we're going to raise it, whatever the thing is. Once that is done, I want to figure out the radiator. So I think I'm going to figure out how to raise these tubes up 9 or 10 inches and then mount the radiator itself up under the bracket. That whole gas tank, that's going away. That's kind of a jank design anyways, so I'll just pull that off to the side and we'll rig up some kind of a gas tank just with a hose, call it a day. Once I get that, I think at that point she's probably ready to go. We'll install the new radiator hoses on the radiator on the top, radiator on the bottom. And then once the engine's situated, then I can get rid of that plate. I did not end up rebuilding the original carburetor. I ended up purchasing a rebuilt carburetor. It's still original, but not to mine. So bought one that was just a refurbed. So we'll slap that guy on there. Probably talk to my brother how to hose up everything, get the linkages and all that stuff. And eventually we'll figure out how to work these actual switches and work these gauges. I heard these gauges are absolutely terrible and don't work at all. This isn't It's not an Arbor Freight engine run stand, but is the next best thing. So, if I can get the ignition switch to work, great. But apparently the other gauges don't work for shit. So I kind of want to make the whole thing be good to go. And the goal is to run this thing on the stand, break it in. I would love to get some kind of exhaust on this thing. So right now, obviously, it's not even straight pipes. It's just the straight exhaust manifold. So if I can get the exhaust manifold, I do have the parts for that, which are the 9-degree elbow kind of things that come straight off the exhaust manifolds. I might use them, but they have holes in them, so maybe I can find replacements, or maybe I can just buy the whole exhaust system and just use the new parts to bolt into the exhaust manifolds, so it's not so bad. I am in the city, I am in the suburbs, so I don't want to run this thing just straight fucking no exhaust manifolds. So gotta have some kind of exhaust. So I'm thinking of buying some kind of muffler that can maybe mount on the bottom here, and then I believe you can get a flex tube that will mount right onto those exhaust manifolds, or at least off of the elbows off the exhaust manifolds. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's probably all I got. So just wanted to give you guys an update. She's looking good. It's feeling good. She turns over great. Got a lot of compression, and I'm really hoping it starts. But, we'll have to figure that out. Signing off.